Hello everybody and welcome back to the Cupcake Jemma channel with me, Gemma. And a couple of weeks ago I did a video for marbled buttercream, a decoration technique which I absolutely love, and it's great. But in that video I gave you the recipe for my vanilla sponge. Now this is a vanilla sponge that I developed last year for Crumbs Doilies. It's delicious and fluffy and yummy, and it occurred to me that I haven't actually given you the recipe for it, which is crazy because it is literally my new favourite sponge and I never bake my old sponge anymore. It's only ever this one whenever I do birthday cakes for Eden and her friends. So I thought I'd share it with you because sharing is caring. So I'm going to give you the recipe quantities for a 4-layer 8-inch cake. So I'm using these tins. You can do 4 layers of 8-inch with this amount, or you can do 2 trays, 13 by 9. When you're kind of converting from round to square, the thing to remember is the surface area needs to be the same roughly. But anyway, I am going to do round ones today, and the first thing I'm going to do is grease them because you've got to have a greasy tin. Obviously, I've got my oven preheating and it's at 170 degrees C, and that's a fan assisted oven. So if you've got a non-fan oven, you want to make that 185 to 190 and convert it to Fahrenheit at your leisure using everyone's favourite Google. So the next thing I'm going to do is get my dry ingredients and my wet ingredients ready so that I don't have to faff about later. So I have 600 grams of self-raising flour here, and I'm going to pop that through the sieve. And then add 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. So that's my dry done. And now I'm going to move on to my wet, which is simply buttermilk and vanilla. So I've got 180 grams of buttermilk, and I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of good... and I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of good quality vanilla extract. Right, that's my preparation done. I've also cracked my eggs because there's 9 of them, and you guys don't need to see 9 eggs being cracked. You've seen it all before, although Nikki does like to get those slow-mo egg shots, don't you, Nikki?
I do.
Sorry, not this time. So I've got my big mixer here. Now this is quite a lot of cake, so I'm using my big KitchenAid. You could probably just about get away with doing this amount in one of the smaller KitchenAids, but I am going to provide you down in the description box alternate sizing. So I'll do a recipe for 6-inch and 7-inch as well. So you can do whatever you need to do. Anyway, I'm going to start with my butter. So this is lovely, spreadably soft butter here. I'm going to pop that into my bowl. Ooh, in one. Plop. So I'm using vegetable oil. So you just need any kind of flavourless oil. So I've got 180 grams here. I forgot to tell you how much butter. That was 420 grams of soft butter, and I've got 525 grams of caster sugar. In you go. Now I'm using the paddle attachment here. You don't want to use a whisk for this. I'm going to start it on a slow speed just to start to bring the ingredients together a little bit, but then I'm going to crank it up to a medium speed, and I'm going to beat it for anywhere between 1.5 to 2 minutes. You're not looking for it to be pale and fluffy. Because of the oil, it doesn't do the same thing as creaming does with sugar and butter, but you just want to make sure you do it for anywhere between 1.5 to 2 minutes. The timing is important here. Right, it does look pale and fluffy, but it's still quite sort of liquidy, unlike regular creamed cake mixtures to begin with, but now it is time to have the eggs. So I'm going to add them 1 or 2 at a time. Now I've broken a couple of yolks here, so it's going to be a bit tricky to tell, but just blob them in and let that go for a few seconds in between. I like to count the rotations and make about 20 rotations. Right, that's all my eggs in. Now I'm going to give it a quick scrape down the sides because any mixer, no matter how great it is, doesn't always get everything. So just be gentle, try not to sort of knock it about too much. Whoa, that's too fast. And then drop the speed right down, but that seems to have turned off completely. Let's try that again. There we go. So the minimum speed now, and it's time to add the dry and the wet. But I'm gonna start by adding like a cup or half a cup of the dry ingredients to the rest of the mixture. And what this is gonna do is to prevent it from curdling too much, because if we added the buttermilk to this now, it would really curdle because it just doesn't have all the right things to absorb. So when that's all folded in on a low speed, you can then get your buttermilk and vanilla mixture in there. And if it does look a bit curdled, do not panic. Nothing terribly wrong is going to happen. It does affect the texture of the finished cake, but in such a small way that you won't barely notice it. But anyway, we're going to add the rest of the dry ingredients and it will all come together. So in you go with the flour. And then just in exactly the same way, on the lowest speed, or even if you want to do it by hand, you could do that. Fold it all together until it's completely combined. And that's it. Now there might be a few little bits of flour that didn't quite make it. I will finish this by hand a little bit just because I don't want to do too much working of the flour. You don't want to, you'll get a tough cake. You want to keep this nice and light. So you want to minimize the amount you work it once the flour has gone in. Otherwise you can end up creating too much gluten, which is not, it doesn't make for a nice soft cake. So give it a good scrape down the sides and into the middle, and just fold any ingredients that you spot, like this. I found a little pocket of egg here. Just fold that really gently just to combine it into the rest of it. So my batter is looking lovely and flumpy and smells really good. It smells kind of tangy because of that lovely buttermilk as well. Right, so I've got my 4 tins all ready to receive the batter. So I'm going to do it as evenly as possible, but I am going to measure it as well with my scales, because I like to be perfect, you know? And now I'm just going to level them a little bit with a palette knife, just so that they don't have to fight to get level in the oven. Right, ready to bake. So I'm going to bake these for 26 to 28 minutes. Obviously your oven might be slightly different, so make sure you check them with a skewer. The skewer wants to come out clean when you poke it. Oh, I was going to try 4 on a tray, but I don't actually think that will work. So let's put them on different levels. All right, off you go. See you in a bit. There it is. Smelling amazing, looking beautiful, looking really, really soft and moist. I know a lot of people don't like the word moist, but in this case, it's absolutely perfectly descriptive. I'm gonna have a little bite. I went for strawberry jam in mine, controversial. Some people like raspberry jam the most, but anyway, I love it. so velvety. So it's really soft and really moist, as I said, and I think part of that is because of the buttermilk that we put in. And I found that this sponge in particular keeps for a lot longer than a regular sponge, which is just butter and eggs and milk and flour and sugar. I think that's because of the buttermilk and probably the oil as well. Like, I find sponges with oil in rather than butter do keep moister for longer. But because we've got this combination of butter and oil, there's like the perfect balance of like the buttery flavour but also the moistness, longevity. So I developed this cake for a new range of cakes we do at Crumbs Doilies last year, and we actually did a video on kind of behind the scenes of that. So we'll put a link to that in the description box below because it's quite kind of fun. You get to see like a little bit of the development process. And like how I trained the guys downstairs to bake them all. But we use this sponge for all of our cakes now at Crumbs and Doilies. So if you want us to make you one rather than you make them yourself, head over to crumbsanddoilies.co.uk to check out all the lovely flavours that we do. But in the meantime, I hope this becomes your new favourite vanilla sponge. It's definitely mine. I use it all the time, and it's hands down the yummiest sponge I have ever made. If you make it, don't forget, you've got to put it on your Instagram using Cupcake Jemma, and on the Bake Club chat. If you're a Bake Club member, please do that there. And if you're not a Bake Club member yet, please give it a consideration. I'll see you another time for some more delicious treats. So until then, catch you later. Got some sponge to eat. This time I won't get it stuck in my teeth. So soft.